Hello, friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network. My name is Robbie Young. I'm the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at CUInsight, and it's my job on this show to have conversations with thought leaders who support the credit union community. We'll identify issues affecting credit unions and discuss best practices that help us learn from one another and strengthen our credit unions around the ecosystem. My guest on today's show is Har Rai Khalsa, co-founder and CEO of Swaystack. Har Rai, thanks for being here.
Robbie, thank you for welcoming us. And first and foremost, just thank you for everything you do to bring fintechs and credit unions together.
Of course, if you're stronger, credit unions are stronger, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised how often folks say, "Oh, I read your article. Oh, where was it? CUInsights."
Well, we'd love to hear it. So to get us started, most of us didn't grow up thinking we'd work with credit unions. What did you want to be when you grew up?
It's a great question, Robbie. Yeah. So when I was young, I was an active athlete. I played basketball, baseball, football, golf, always anticipated being, some type of professional athlete due to my competitive nature. My father was the captain of his high school football team in Brooklyn, New York, played rugby at Harvard. So I always thought I would be an athlete when I was growing up, to be honest. Nothing crazy like an astronaut, but a professional athlete.
We do get a lot of astronauts on the program, and we do have a few athletes as well. I think more noted was like baseball players and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, grew up as a Yankees fan. My father's from Brooklyn, so Derek Jeter was always my idol. Wore that number 2 in Little League. And yeah, I mean, just when you see these folks who are performing what seems like miracles on the field, and then they're so graceful in the public eye, I always appreciated that balance of fame and humility.
I like it. Can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to your current role as co-founder and CEO of Swaystack?
Yeah, so really cut my teeth in the space as a lender. 7 years direct lending, 2 years indirect lender. Learned my way around dealer onboarding, underwriting, processing, core integrations. Took that background in lending and built a loan origination system called MK Decision, starting in 2015, coming into 2016. Initially, we were lasered in on credit card origination, had over 1,000 institutions taking in credit applications for credit cards on the software. Later built out account opening, and shortly after going to market with our account opening products, went through an acquisition with Alchemy, the online banking provider in Dallas. Put in 2.5 years there, first as the general manager, later leading the product focus. Left February of 2024. And April 1st, we really started our first conversations with credit unions around Swaystack. So yeah, we're just less than 2 years in here, Robbie.
I like it. Can you tell me more about Swaystack and where and how they add value for credit unions?
Absolutely. Yeah. So in the first, call it 15 to 20 conversations we had with credit unions, we took a very different approach. We didn't come at credit unions as if we knew the solution and we knew what it should cost. In fact, we came the exact opposite direction. We said, what are your biggest challenges? What are the solutions or features you need to address those challenges? And then last but not least, tell me what you would be willing to pay if we built this type of solution. So really worked with credit unions, not just to design the solution itself, to first vet out the problem statement. So when we were starting Swaystack back in April 2024, we thought we would be a cross-sell engine, a data-driven marketing automation tool. And while we heard there's a lot of value there around cross-sell and deepening the number of products per membership or household, credit union said, we're struggling to get the members to use the first checking account that they open with us. Why would we need to be the best at cross-selling if we can't even get them to adopt and actively use the first product they came in for? And we said, tell me a little bit more about that. That sounds interesting. They said, we're struggling to get these accounts funded. Maybe our account opening system gets them open super slick and easy, but they fund it with a minimum amount and then they go away. We never hear from them again. Or they say, we're struggling to interact with their paycheck coming from their employer, their payroll system. If we could win that direct deposit paycheck relationship, it's effectively the lifeline to that member's lifestyle. And then last but not least, we're seeing more and more credit unions who define primacy or account activity based off of card transactions, maybe even willing to pay a yield on a deposit product, depending on the number of swipes that member has. So folks were struggling, Robbie, to get the funds from external financial institutions, the paychecks to come from the employer and then the recurring card transactions. We said, you know what, that sounds valuable. What would you be willing to pay for an onboarding guide or an onboarding switch kit that walked your members through that? Credit unions told us the price. We went to market below the price they asked us to charge. And here we are, 21 customers later and less than 2 years into the business.
That's awesome. So we know that member growth is a top priority for credit unions. And while credit unions see strong account growth, many experience significant member inactivity within the first year, like you were saying. What's driving the activation gap, and why are the first 90 days so critical for member value?
Robbie, at Innovate in September last year in New York, we posed the question to the audience, how many of you know how many accounts you opened last year? And how many of you know what percentage of them were funded with direct deposits and recurring card transactions? And then to drive a little bit deeper, we said, are these accounts getting open but going inactive because there's a gap in your digital experience? Or is it because there's not enough incentive for the member to switch their primary banking relationship? So at Swaystack, we believe it's both. We believe you have to know how many accounts are open, but you also have to know the account activity that you're getting per account. Somebody has to own those KPIs. What's the balance? How many transactions a month? What's the direct deposit adoption? But you also need to be able to splice an onboarding journey that helps the member move over their primary banking relationship with layered incentives, either at the action level or the journey level. Because if you can give the member the path to switch a primary banking relationship and gamify it or incentivize them with an intro bonus or a yield on their checking account balances, then it becomes an actual consideration that the member is going to select over going to Chase, where they could get $900 intro bonus, or a Truist, where they could get a $400 intro bonus.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know in a lot of your content, you talk about a lot about these pain points and why credit unions aren't winning over the neobanks and things like that. But we know onboarding often spans multiple teams and touch points. Where do credit unions most commonly lose ownership and visibility in that process? And how should leaders rethink accountability?
Robbie, we were on with a $750 million credit union today. And when we brought up the chart that shows the different activities that retail, lending, marketing, and digital do, they said, you're exactly correct. These people are doing these activities, but nobody is truly owning onboarding. And the way that we're starting to define this is who owns the average account balance for the checking accounts? Who owns the number of debit card transactions monthly? Who owns the direct deposit percentage across the number of checking accounts? These KPIs govern the business model, the profit and loss of your average credit union. But so often we don't hear that folks own the activity level on these accounts, maybe the number of new accounts opened or the number of new members driven. So we're starting to hear a shift in the credit union market where they either will designate onboarding ownership to a specific team, or they'll create a cross-departmental focus group or technology innovation team that's focused on the onboarding journeys and the strategy across their key products within the credit union. So there's either delegate this to one specific team, consolidate the ownership and the responsibility there, or let's bring 4 different teams together. Let's get the leaders aligned on the strategy, the business objectives, how we're going to measure success. So we're seeing both of those models still play out. But you'd be surprised, Robbie, how often somebody says, you're right, there's no clear ownership of onboarding at our credit union.
Yeah. And to move into the member engagement side of that, credit unions have invested heavily in point solutions for things like direct deposit, card activation, yet many still struggle to drive meaningful member engagement. Where is that approach falling short, and how can credit unions reduce that friction?
Robbie, this is probably the best question. At the end of the day, no matter how good the point solution or mousetrap, if it is hidden within a digital banking menu option and never surfaced to the correct members, they're not going to wake up one morning and search out your tools in your menu. You have to have a strategy around driving the right members to the right tools. So I'll break this down into maybe 3 or 4 sections. The first is the quality of the third parties that you're using to drive the onboarding activation, how you're funding the accounts, how you're driving direct deposit switch, how you're moving the card transactions seamlessly. Can you integrate directly to the e-statement provider? Are you making it easier to refer friends, et cetera? So as you think about the quality of the third parties involved in moving the money, moving the paycheck, and moving the payments, if those are poor quality third parties, you're not going to get adoption no matter how front and center the call to action is to the member. The second major challenge that we're seeing is the channel. For too long, these tools were deployed through web applications, sent out through email links. We hear from credit unions so often that they're training their members not to click links in emails, yet their primary channel of communication to the members through emails. So they're in this bind with their members where they're struggling to communicate their most advanced tools within the digital channel. So they're relegated to email, kind of bifurcating the message that they're sharing with their member, confusing the member. Why are you communicating to me through email to do this sensitive action? The third thing here, Robbie, that I think is underlying the whole strategy is the ability to segment the right members for the right actions. So you got to have quality third-party tools. You have to have those tools driven towards the member in the right channel. We would say that's digital banking. And then third, you have to have the right targeting mechanism to figure out which members need to take which actions and then recommend them in the right channel. So those are the three keys that we're seeing. If you have a good tool but no engagement or targeting strategy, it's going to be stuck in the menu option of digital banking. If you're also able to overlay incentives for these actions, for example, if you switch your direct deposit and we see $250 of direct deposits in the next 30 days, we'll give you a $25 gift card or immediate bonus. Overlaying incentives, you'd be surprised how that could shift the relationship with your member in your favor. They're being incentivized by other shops at the exact same time. Sometimes one action can reignite that relationship.
So as you look to the future, what is Swaystack's focus for the road ahead?
Robbie, we've been challenged, even as recently at GAC, to articulate a clear vision of what's on the horizon for Swaystack. So we're now unveiling our crawl, walk, run strategy, which is a 3-product strategy. There's onboarding, there's engagement, and there's pre-approval loan automation. Credit unions can buy each of those products individually or collectively at discounted pricing. So onboarding to activate the new relationships, engagement for personalized product cross-sell and campaign orchestration, and then pre-approval loan automation to provide members with pre-approved offers from personal to vehicle to credit cards.
I like it. So to wrap up the show, I'd like to have some fun with some rapid fire questions to let our listeners get to know you a bit better. The questions are rapid, but your answers certainly don't have to be. Do you think you're ready?
Yes.
All right. That didn't sound convincing. Be sure. So who's someone in your life that's a great leader and what makes them great?
Mark Forbes, prior CTO of Jack Henry, just salt of the earth, humble man, always there to serve good people, goes out of his way to provide and add value, looks out for people in the industry, keeps them close. Great example of a leader.
Oh, I like that. That sounds like a perfect example of a leader too. So if you're going to splurge on something and you want to treat yourself, what's one thing you might invest in a bit?
Yeah, obviously liquidity events in mind, but maybe a car or a nice watch.
Oh, interesting. What's your favorite car? Like no budget,
I'm a
no
Porsche
anything.
guy. Yeah, I'm a Porsche guy. But if I was going to experiment, maybe McLaren or something like that.
I like it. I was going to say McLaren too. I like them. So I know you and I pass each other probably on flights and in conference halls all the time. But when you're traveling for work, what city are you most excited to visit, whether that's for a conference or a client visit?
Excellent question. Always have fun going to Southern California or California in general. New York City is always fun. It's always refreshing to just feel the heartbeat of New York and the culture of the people. Yeah, I would say coast to coast, Robbie.
I still have not been to New York City yet.
Oh, you must go. It's beautiful. Central Park, after a conference, go to Central Park for the afternoon and just try and decompress a little bit. That's one of my favorites.
I like it. What is a book that you think everyone should read?
Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Excellent book to understand human psychology, the underlying needs that people have when communicating in very high pressure situations, the ability to de-escalate high pressure situations through conscious communication. Excellent book. He was a hostage negotiator for the FBI. That can be applied to relationships, that can be applied to business, etc.
Ooh, I like that. I'll have to put that on my list. There's a lot on my list now.
Move it on up.
So what is your best hack for creating balance and integration between your work life and your life?
Convincing myself that there is no separation, Robbie, because at the end of the day, I have my breath, I have my heartbeats, I have my steps, the blink of my eye, right? And so I'm unable to distinguish what I'm doing professionally from everything else I'm doing. In fact, what I'm doing professionally is one of the key areas of emphasis for all that I'm able to do outside, i.e., what I'm able to provide for my family, contribute to charity, give back to society at large. And so I see them all overlapping, Robbie.
I like that. That's where I tend to go to with this because and I think balance can look different hour by hour. And so I like that too. I think that it's all one life and we just do the best we can with what we have.
But traveling is always hard. You're subject to more people, you've got more germs and whatnot. So I always travel with oregano oil, do a couple drops under the tongue, wash it down with water, and then ginger tea. Those are my two on the road always with those two.
That's a real hack. I like that.
Keeps the immunity up. Yeah, exactly.
We'll be sure to link to everything we talked about today in the show notes. But my last question for you is, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share or asks of our listeners?
Yeah, just continue to trust in the right people to write the software that's never been written before. I think sometimes credit unions can be fearful of doing something that hasn't been done before. But that's the exciting part of life is innovating, is creating, filling the gap where previously there was a void. So yeah, trust in the right people to do that which has not been done before.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Stay well. And thanks to all of our listeners for tuning into the CUInsight Network. If you like this show and want to see more from Har Rai or Swaystack and our other great contributors, please go over to CUInsight.com and subscribe so you can get that right to your inbox every day. We'll be back again next time.